Welcome back to the Eastern Region Playoffs for the CCL. My name is McCormill. With me is Cash. The McMaster Marauders and the St. Clair Saints fight off in what will be a best-of-5 series for not only an elimination match, but for a spot to secure themselves for the CCL playoffs in the East. The last spot is up for grabs. Both of these teams are hungry. Both of these teams want it. And the St. Clair Saints and McMaster Marauders are both poised to make a run. Cash, what say you?
The same. I mean, we said at the top of the initial series, but it's land or go home. Neither squad wants to go home tonight. You want to make it to land and snag that last spot in the East, so we know, even more so than our first matchup. You just know every matchup from here on out is going to be more than a banger. And yeah, between these two squads, I mean, they're just going to be duking it out for the entirety of the series.
We'll take a look at the head-to-head between both of these two rosters overall. Both teams have had a phenomenal season for themselves. We'll talk about the Saints just real quick. Overall, it was kind of an up and down, first and then into the second stage. They only lost three maps, or rather 3 series over the course of the entire season, but they were in Tier 2 inside of their division, which was a bit peculiar specifically because of how good that team had been. They had just missed that Tier 1 cut, and then being in Tier 2 gave them tons of profound confidence that they found in themselves. And then all of a sudden, here inside of the playoffs, not only did they make a run in the winner's bracket, but here inside of the loser's bracket, they're poised to not only make playoffs, but try to take down the McMaster Marauders, who have also been extremely good throughout the entire year. This series overall, Cash, is going to be one that I think a lot of people are going to look back on as one that could potentially swing tides of the entire land.
It really could. Whoever walks out of here tonight, like you said, that's just gonna create waves as we move into the land portion of this postseason. But touching back on the Saints, like you had said, one where you get stage 2, Tier 2, and you don't make the top cut, and you feel like you've got a little bit to prove, right? Like you said, it gave them worlds of confidence, but you feel like you deserve to be in that top cut spot. But hey, you end up spinning things in your favor. Like you said, you have a really good showing in Tier 2 and prove why you maybe should have been just an unfortunate shakeout of events that put them there. But now you find yourself, like you said, in this lower bracket after making a solid winner's run. I mean, of course, on paper, this is looking dead even between these two teams. But really for the Saints, they're coming in, and I have to feel like they're still playing with a little bit of something to prove. They don't want their season to end here. They want to go to land and show what they're made of.
I mean, you ask around, and for the St. Clair Saints, multiple times throughout this year, people have said, oh, they're one of the most underrated teams instead of the CCL. And at times I believed it, and at times I saw it, and there were other times where I was like, maybe this team is penetrable. But you know what? At this stage, there's not many teams that have been able to go toe-to-toe with them and come out in a successful manner. But talking about the McMaster Marauder esports roster quickly, just going ahead and looking down to this 4-man roster with Big Head and Netrix, as well as Diz and Schneids. Again, this is a roster that I have come to enjoy over the course of the CCL season. It's a roster I've had my eye on kind of since the beginning, and namely with Big Head being on that roster, kind of one of those big names that came in from the Cold War season inside of Vanguard that really was just kind of this, like, okay, it could be another star potential player inside of the CCL, and at least thus far, it kind of has panned out in that way.
And a great supporting cast of the other players. Like you had said, though, Big Head kind of being that eye test player where you're like, okay, I'm gonna give the squad a look, and well, like you said, they've turned heads and then some, especially within this postseason, and they're going to look to try to take the series as well away from the St. Clair Saints. As we have a look at the St. Clair roster, again, still just star-studded players that you can look at across the board, and these players are going to go toe-to-toe the whole night.
Around and take a look at the Canadian roster of the St. Clair Saints. If you were to ask Jesse and Seymour, they would have told you that this roster would have easily made playoffs at the very beginning of the year and made the land at the beginning of the year as well. That prediction could very well come true inside of this best-of-5 series. Sauce, Priestley, Brandon, and Gorilla, they've been a pleasure to watch this season. I've personally got to commentate over them a few times this year, and every single time I've watched them, it reinstills that confidence that I have of a team that was going to be able to make at least a top 16 run, maybe somewhere around there in playoffs. Now that they've made the losers bracket runs and they've been able to watch some of the broadcasted matches that weren't actually on the CCL, like earlier on today, that was, it looked clean against Georgia Southern.
Yeah, like you said, this is a squad where you look at it and say, okay, I mean, you had your hiccup, throughout the season a little bit, but you play consistent enough where you can't really say you're shocked they're here. Again, at times, you'd mentioned how they were an underrated squad and how people weren't really, give them the respect and the looks that they needed, but they find themselves here, and this tournament is theirs to prove themselves, and they can go as far as they would like. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say. The sky's the limit for the squad. They don't have any ceiling that we can see coming up. So, I mean, it is theirs to go out and take if they want it. And I expect to see that from them tonight. But, you're going up against McMaster, like you said. And, well, it's not going to be an easy one.
Take a look at our map set inside of this best-of-5 series between both of these two teams. We'll start things off on a map of Berlin for a hard point. We'll go to Berlin for the S&D in map 2 as well. Tuscan Control will go ahead and find ourselves our home on map 3, and then for map 4, Tuscan in a Desert Siege for a Search and Destroy to end out this best-of-5 series. Need we go the distance? Overall, Cash, kind of just your thoughts on both of these teams as we get into this best-of-5.
I think St. Clair, right? Excuse me. I think St. Clair riding pretty high. Coming in this one, of course, McMaster, you look at them and go, okay, 15 seed. Again, you can shake down the numbers, you can break down the head-to-head as much as you want, but I think St. Clair coming into this one, they feel really solid about how they're going to play in the series. You look at the maps, of course, and you keep it mid-sized to bigger maps. You're going to kick things off with 2 Berlins, and I think how St. Clair come out energy-wise and look to put this series away early is going to decide things for them. Like you said, they had a dominant showing previously, and you want to see them come out and just go all gas for the entirety of this series. Berlin is a great map to come out and engage. Yeah, can you win gunfights, but can you also play around the map and have your presence be felt there? So a good gauge for them and for McMaster. I mean, you're just coming out and trying to do what you've been doing all season, and that's been winning, right? You don't take many losses, but you got to stay focused, and you got to have a team all on the same page here. I mean, we saw even in our last series, things can go sour very quickly if you aren't all on the same page. So that's a major key to success for this Marauder squad going into map number 1, and of course in the series.
If you're just joining us and didn't see the first best-of-5 series on stream, it was the side of Davenport that took down Concord to secure themselves the first-class ticket to LAN. Diz, though, going to be the first one pushed around up and toward the point. Big Head going to find the first blood in the game. Priestley there with a trade. 5 seconds to St. Clair early on. 15 seconds ticked off the point here thus far. As everybody else is starting to go ahead and scatter in and around the point. Gorilla's just working the staircase in the back to make sure his team can't get flanked.
We're going to see if the team can't get flanked, but it's still going to be McMaster getting a bit of time here, and they get complete site control for the moment. With 20 seconds left, you already see player 3 in net on rotation over to P2, so let's player 8 sniff this out. What he does is going to be a huge gunfight here to decide how the first bit of time for P2 goes. It's going to go the way of net, and they're still winning on P1. Substantial start for McMaster Marauders, and they win the rotation cleanly over to P2.
Couple of doubles here and there. McMaster stepping towards the bottom of P2 already. You'll see Shines all the way in the back, looking for the kill onto Brandon. Brandon will be able to come out on top of that gunfight. Inside of P5, should be a gunfight around the left side here. Brandon doesn't spot the player out, but is on 3 in a row. Diz will find the first blood. Priestley there inside of the point. We'll go ahead and snap back around to the second as well. So although you're down by 15, and instead of McMaster still winning gunfights around the point, you've done a nice job breaking yourself on into the point for about 40 seconds of time left. It'll be contested, but you win the gunfights, you can come out on top, and then you'll start thinking about that rotation over towards you.
And you've got player 6 and Brandon holding mid-map and P5 and cutting players off as they're trying to cross over street. Player 2 and Big Head does slip through, but Sauce takes care of them. And like you said, they break in with 40 seconds left and has pretty cleanly gotten this bit of P2 time. Now they look to make this P3 rotation, and it's Gorilla once again taking the hike. Gonna have a couple gunfights ahead of them, but player 5 and Priestley is also on the move through fire. They open up with a couple big kills, and players spawning out. So they're already starting to win this rotation.
Also looking to the backside of spawns. Netrix, a good one-on-one gunfight there against Brandon, and now as everybody from the side of McMaster is starting to push towards from the north side. It's St. Clair who have found themselves in toward the point for the initial 10 seconds of time. Looking around, fighting from the offside of spawn. Gucci Gang Sauce will find the first kill. Gorilla gets traded out immediately after the fact. But still a 30-point lead now and climbing for the side of St. Clair. Priestley from the front will be able to pick up 1. Now you look to the backside of spawn. Big Head gets snapped onto, but wins the one-on-one gunfight. And as McMaster is in control of the spawns, they'll also be in control of the hill. It can force St. Clair back across the map. They're just trying to go ahead and get this back into a manageable point before the P4 rotation.
And this all happens because they're able to hold on to those spawns as long as they were. Now they can draw this back to a tied game, like you said, but St. Clair going to look to give it another hit, and Brandon opens this attack up with a good kill. Now as they're working through fire and pinching through statue, holding it from the front and extending the lead is going to be the Saints. And on rotation, going to be a couple players slipping out and through for the Marauders. Big gunfight win coming in player 6 and Brandon, but Priestley there to help them out, and now if you're the Marauders, you're kind of stuck over here on train side.
All the way back over towards P4, that bottom quadrant is basically locked in for themselves. They essentially have half of a map in their favor right now if you are St. Clair. 40 points now extending even further. 45 seconds on the point here. Big Head trying to make his way all the way in through the back line of spawns, but as St. Clair are looking to go ahead and hold down the hill yet again. They've done a great job here early on the side of the hard point, not only slaying out the side of McMaster, but being able to win those rotations, break at crucial moments, and being able to find their way around the map pretty much without any contention.
And that's what we said they needed to do to find success on Berlin. This map is a great gauge of all the things you just rattled off, and you're rattling all of those off in favor of St. Clair. That's why we see them with a 50-point lead, and with the stat lines that they do for the time being. McMaster just unable to get map control. I think that's been their biggest problem thus far. Of course, right now they're winning and they're on the mid-map and trying to lock down for P5, but it's been very clean rotations and fairly, like you had said, uncontested for the side of the Saints. P3 the most contested because they never gave up spawns, and that's the way you've got to play. You've really got to anchor in and bully out sites and win those gunfights, but the Saints, even without spawns, were able to win the majority of that P3 time. They look to do the same here on P5. Just look at how far back McMaster is playing the control St. Clair has around the map. I mean, they have had majority of map possession this entire hardpoint.
Obviously looking to make a wrap over towards the right side. Schneid in a one-on-one gunfight. That's just so difficult to lose there. And that's a 3-1 trade for the St. Clair Saints as they now find themselves in towards P5. Netrix, though, will find 2 quick kills by the north portion of the map. Still really no contention in the point just yet here for the McMaster Marauders. It's been the St. Clair Saints winning the majority of their gunfights in and around the point, which has allowed them to extend their lead thus far. But McMaster has been sitting at 50 points ever since we were over at P3. They need to garner themselves some sort of time.
They do, and player 4 in Schneid's tries to read the route coming in from Sauce and really Gorilla, who have also been running routes, but read it too late and collapse too late because spawns start to come in for the Saints, so they're just a couple steps behind the St. Clair squad at the moment, and well, that affords St. Clair not only spawns, but this early P1 time, and once they start to zone out and get more control of the map, as we've seen this first half of the hard point, it doesn't bode well for the Marauders. They've got to find a way to close distance on the map and start to take a few more of these gunfights.
St. Clair looking amazing here through the first set of rotations, but the break here into P1 will be in for McMaster. They've gotten themselves their first 10 seconds since P3, which, you know, you hope wouldn't be a statistic at this point, but sadly it is. 147-58 St. Clair as they break back in and win the gunfights across the map. Priestley on screen will win too. That's going to help the side of St. Clair not only get themselves a nice 100-point lead for themselves, but now start to make the rotation over towards P2. This game is getting thrown out of hand very, very quickly, and if you are the McMaster Marauders, you either need to square up immediately or just say GG, go next.
I feel like it's going to be a GG go next, and that's simply because St. Clair, they've just been funneling, and one, they've been controlling the map, and that in turn has been funneling the Marauder players through whatever lane the Saints pick. I mean, this P2, of course, if you're Marauders, you win some good gunfights and get early control, but this break is coming in very quickly. But for St. Clair, they have the map spread so well that they just know what lanes the Marauders have to come through because they have everything else locked down or at least sniffed out and taken control of. So a longer bit of time to get in break for the Marauders. You get 30 seconds of time here, and that's not a bad way to go about it. But you get broken, and now where you have no find success is you've got to re-break. And again, look at how zoned out they are beyond the map. You know exactly where the Marauders have to come from. They have to come through fire if they want to make a play. Because Brandon just killed the last player that could have made a play, and now they're going to flip through fire. And if they can get spawns here, I mean, again, I think it's GG's go next. That's the only saving grace the Marauders had the last go-around, is that they never lost P3 spawns, and you know the Saints want to go through and change that.
I mean, you just look to Gorilla, who's still trying to make the play all the way back around to the up north portion of the map. You have 2 players now looking to make their way into fire. Nobody wants to challenge over through pillars. It's such a difficult way to break it on in. Is going to be able to find one, gets traded out immediately after the fact. 7 seconds have popped in towards P3. St. Clair at the 200-point mark, looking to go ahead and break on in towards the hill as well. Big George going to turn back around. Priestley going to find the first gunfight there. They break on in. Netrix all the way in the back line. Spawn's still going to be there for the McMaster Marauders. However, as I say that, the spawn out comes across the map. They're going to get parallels now. 2 versus 2 in towards the point. Schneid won't be able to win it. Priestley is there with Brandon. The help is in. The reinforcements are there. St. Clair have broken on in with a flurry of kills and now hold control in towards P3 and look to go ahead and maybe find their way out on a break towards P4, but it really won't matter at this point, Cash. If they hold all the scrap here, you're looking at like a 5-point game for a win.
Yeah. I mean, St. Clair, the minimal mistakes they have made, and again, I keep mentioning it specifically, but that P3 where the Marauders never quite gave up spawns and kept themselves, I don't want to say in it, but with the majority amount of time that they've gotten this entire map. St. Clair break in. And that to me is just St. Clair saying, we're going to continue making adjustments even if we have a lead like we do. We're not just going to chalk it up and, contest it and fight for it. They're fighting for every bit of time here as if it is a tied game. Now we see the streaks coming in. 3 more down in the feed once again. Through the back is going to be the St. Clair Saints. And with just 15 seconds needed and the Marauders funneling through train, Gorilla on the pickoff, I don't see this going well for him.
I don't either. Diz going to be the last one pushed up over towards the train side. Everybody coming off the spawns now for the St. Clair Saints. Schneid's trying to hold on with an AR towards the front of the hill. Nade stun's going to be thrown out. McMaster just trying to win a few more gunfights to get over that 100-point mark. I mean, at this point, you're just trying to, for your confidence sake, to not get 100-point club. Diz over towards the point. Big Head's going to hop down in towards the hill, so there you go. You're going to get triple digits on the board. St. Clair won't be able to win off this hard point any longer. 12 seconds can go their way still, and the rotation of P5 will be theirs. But there's quite literally no way that McMaster is going to be able to come back here on St. Clair. Even if I were to use the perfect hard point analogy or anything like that, there's not a single shot in the world that St. Clair's not going to be able to get 1 second of hill time where McMaster would be able to find 248. So map number 1, a stunner, a barn burner, an absolute thrashing of the McMaster Marauders. St. Clair's looking amazing yet again here in the first map of a best of 5 series. They've gone great all the way through the winner's bracket. Here in the loser's bracket, they've looked good. This team is looking like a team that wants and is potentially going to get to LAN.
Yeah, and just passing the eye test, Brandon and Priestley, 29 and 15, 27 and 18, well over 3,000 damage. I mean, it wasn't a perfect hard point by any means, but again, where they made mistakes, they improved the second set of rotations. I mean, that just goes to show an elite team. Like, how many teams at this stage in the game, are able to make those adjustments on the fly and find that much success? The St. Clair squad, I mean, they've got something different going for them. Like you've said, they are just poised and moving different right now. With, again, with how dominant that was, the potential to take this in 3. Still a lot of Call of Duty ahead of us, but we're going to stay on Berlin for map number 2. And, well, I mean, I don't know that I expect to see too much of a different result with how well they played Berlin specifically around the map, finding the kills. We stay here. McMaster would have to do a lot more to change my mind than St. Clair, like, letting off the gas or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, just taking a look at the statistics here, I mean, Slang really was not that far apart from both of these two teams, which is really interesting to point out as a general statistic as we push this series forward. It's just that general better gameplay that we saw to St. Clair Saints when it comes to that team play. I mean, you look to 2 minutes and 17 seconds for Sauce by himself on the hill. 2 other players who are above a minute, almost a minute and 30 seconds. Sure, Gorilla didn't have the greatest game with 17 seconds, but he had an AR out half the game. So, like, do I really care about that? Not that much, especially when you're winning by 148 points. So, there's little things to maybe nitpick here, but I think on the opposite side is McMaster, you need to convert those kills into substantial hill time or just hill time in general. If you're going to even think about contesting the St. Clair roster, they look good. I'll say it right now. They look amazing thus far. I have been a fan of St. Clair to a certain extent over the course of the season. Did I think that they would get to the point where they were going to be beating McMaster like this or shot in the playoffs? No, I didn't. And I'll admit that well out. But sometimes you got to admit when you're wrong to show how good a team is. And after a first map like that, it's ridiculous.
It is insanity. And McMaster, like you had said, just going back to that hard point for a moment, I mean, you look at Netrix, he had 18 of his 19 kills were non-traded. That looks great. 0 seconds of fill time. Not going to cut it. It's just not going to cut it against a team who 3 players have over 60 seconds. 1 player has over 2 minutes of time. It's just, you've got to find a way to get in the hill. And again, they couldn't, unfortunately, so I guess props to St. Clair for keeping them off the hill, but players have to be doing more to get in there. I know as a main AR, he was trying to lock down spawns and did that fairly well, but again, got to find a way to convert more of that into time. They unfortunately were unable to. We're going to go to map number 2 at Berlin. Tuscan, and Desert Siege will be the rest of our series if we need to go there. And, well, based on the breakdown you just gave, Corn, I don't know that we're going to need it. We will see how this map number 2 plays out, but St. Clair Saints looking dominant here in this series to start.
Search and Destroy here on Berlin. St. Clair has been very, very good in Search and Destroy throughout the entirety of this year, but so is the McMaster Marauder roster. So that'll be the kind of interesting play here to kind of just go back and forth to see which team has been practicing recently. It's 12-3 overall this season for the McMaster Marauders. For St. Clair, they went 15-4 over the course of the year. Here on Berlin, though, first team on the offensive try is going to be the side of St. Clair's. It is McMasters go ahead and set up what will be their first defensive hold and setup early on here. It'll be a B hit with the bomb, starting to make their way up. Be in the top of fire, looking over, trying to find that first pick.
And offensively, it is just so hard to work this B site without finding a pick, and that's why you see players just shouldering and shimming around corners trying to find any information, because as you had mentioned, from top fire, that is just such a powerful position to look down and get kills on players crossing street. 2 players are able to get across, and I don't know that McMaster is aware of it, but Schneid will open up on a first blood with a grenade, and that leaves Sauce all alone in the B site, waiting just a moment to get the bomb down, waiting to see if someone's going to get aggressive and challenge. No one is going to, so we will see the bomb go down here. Don't quite have site control, but at the same time, the Marauders have not taken advantage of the map. But now that you're up 4-2, well, we're going to start to see them move and shuffle around, and I expect them to be able to retake this round, but post-plant setup, at least for having 2 players left, solid enough for the St. Clair Saints.
And nobody's really pushed up into the back line of spawn here. So, you know, maybe you win the first couple gunfights and it goes your way, and that's exactly what happens. Brandon forces one off the bomb. You're not going to be able to hop on the defuse just yet. Big Head's pushed all the way into the back line, so you're trying to get back and around Brandon, who's all the way up and towards the top, but you still don't know where that player is. Now he has the information of the door breaking open and knows where you are just because of the shots.
Oh, no.
Pushed up the map. Sauce going to be there. Tries with a pistol. No. Netrix is going to come around the corner. 1 versus 1. No time left. A 2 versus 4 win there on the defensive side after an offensive plant. We'll go to the side of the St. Clair Saints.
To people retake, I mean, you want to say you can't let that happen. It's just, but like you said, no one had gotten through on the back flank. You didn't get the kills quick enough whenever you did get through to the back. And for St. Clair, you did a great job, not only playing the time, but more so finding kills. They just were able to put enough pressure on the B site and their 1 player to keep them from being able to stick the defuse. And that pans out for him. Brandon finding 3 kills in the round is also quite the statistic to put up on an opening offense. Now on their defensive try, they're going to try to make the right read, or at least make a good retake if the Marauders are able to get over towards the site. But off this opening break, it's going to be favoring this B site, and sitting in P2 looking to find a pick are going to be the McMaster Marauders.
Slowly working their way up the map. Just going to throw a long nade over towards Gorilla. Going to be able to spot out 1. At the same time, though, nades from the opposition going to hit as well. So information for both teams. Gucci Gang Sauce now pushed up over towards the shed side. George is going to be there. Does he see the barrel of his gun? Great turnaround. Good timing there. Gucci Gang now might be able to push up. Sauce trying to get at least worked up in towards the north portion to prohibit a B plant from coming through, and that's exactly what will happen. So now as we start to make that rotation over towards A on the offensive side, they don't realize that a few players are already in the middle of the map, and player number 4 in Gorilla has made that rotation towards the backside of Fire and can watch over with an AR, making sure nobody can get into the site.
They know something's fishy, but really I'm keeping my eye on Brandon. He's the one in the mid-map who could cut off Schneid trying to make his way back to his team. Does just that, and now they can collapse on this site. But Brandon with mid-map control and with 4 kills to his name in these first 2 rounds with 20 seconds left. I mean, you're McMaster and you're getting the bomb down, but it's a 4v2. You just took a bit too much time and didn't find any kills to make this route any easier. So now they have to pull off exactly what St. Clair did the last go around, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, they're already going to hop on the defuse here. And, you know, George could be able to clutch up here in a 1 versus 4, but 9 times out of 10, usually 10 times out of 10, that's not going to be able to come to fruition. So no kill's going to come through there. Nothing's going to happen on a 2 versus 4 retake. And really, Cash, what ends up happening there is it was just the difference between St. Clair actually being ready for a bomb plant to come through and being able to flank back around to where they had all angles and routes cut off that they couldn't get out of the site. And then they were able to just win gunfights off that. The good news for St. Clair when they had that first offensive round was, of course, they had the time that they can play with. And, of course, nobody was pushed into the backside spawn. So that's really the only difference and deal breaker there for the reason why McMaster wasn't able to win that 2 versus 4. Either way, another offensive round here for the St. Clair Saints over towards B yet again, at least initially. As you look to the middle of the map, Brandon's on 4 in a row. Maybe looking for some streaks that he can set up over the top. Just watch that B side.
McMaster playing a bit passive on the defensive side, sitting a little. He's back in the spawn net, trying to look over with the AR from Fire, but it's going to be the first shots coming in from Diz over at Doc's side, and St. Clair kind of pinned here at P2, waiting to find a pick. His Sauce is going to stun himself and back himself up for a moment, but just stagnant play. For the time being, no bloods coming in 45 seconds into the round, and a 1v1 showdown at the bottom side of the map that could allow for a flank to come in depending on how the gunfight goes. But in the same fashion we saw McMaster, St. Clair, they're going to wrap it back to A.
Let's try the wrap here, but they don't realize that player number 6 and George is just sitting inside of the office. But if Gorilla's able to hop maybe through the window, get some good timing, they could be able to walk away with this one. Gorilla, beautiful. Inside. George, the first one to fall. 4 versus 3, 25 seconds left. Sure, a Netrix trade comes in, but that's going to allow them to get the bomb down. And now Brandon inside of P2 is just going to be looking for a player. Get some bad timing, but now no, there's a player inside of P2. That was just bad trigger discipline there, but he can get rewarded for it still. And Will Schneids picks up the kill there. 2 versus 3, 35 seconds left.
All you have to do is play around timing. I mean, don't have to tell St. Clair that. They've been doing that well this entire time. As Gucci's going to lob a blind grenade onto the site and try to get some kills, but Schneid's has wrapped through, and in the back, Gorilla reads it beautifully. So now you know odds are your only 2 players left are going to be coming at this from the front, and player 4 and Gorilla could be working something through the mid-map. It is to the side that makes the play. Gorilla finds the other one on 1v1, and no time left to defuse. Gorilla clutches up for the team, snaps, and is able to get the second piece and puts St. Clair up 3-0. McMaster, no matter what they're throwing, it is not sticking. Can't find any momentum here in map number 2.
And you just played that so perfectly. If you are St. Clair, you force the 2 players back over towards the backside of the bomb site. Then for McMaster, you didn't once again have any sort of pressure on the opposite side of the map to where you couldn't force the spawn issue. You couldn't force a flank. Yeah, you get pushed up on the right side, but you allowed Dis with time and his advantage to slide around the corner, win the one-on-one gunfight. Then all he has to do is check back around to the bomb site, and he's able to get that kill there. So for McMaster, it's just been lackluster on both sides of the offense and defensive coin. And now for St. Clair, you're on the defensive side again, trying to go and put yourselves up to a 4-0 lead here. The Marauders, as they start to make their way over towards this A site, though, are going to go all the way up the staircase and could get some good timing on player number 2 and Brandon.
Couple tacks coming over the top. Brandon going to get caught by the flurry of tacticals that come in. That's going to at least soften the defenses here on this A site. But Gucci Gang with the potential to find a couple kills is not going to be able to. George finds another one, and that is going to be clearance on this A site. Now the 2 players have to look to rotate, make a play, but just like that, they're going to do a quick wrap back to B, and I don't know if St. Clair's going to be ready, and even if they are, well, it's a 1v4 at this point, and McMaster, they might find their first one on the board.
What was lackluster for McMaster at least turns around here for this round. If you are Gorilla, though, you are on 6 in a row, so you're not going to try and go ahead and have any heroics here. You're just going to sit in the back, wait for players to start maybe pushing out your side, and trying to go ahead and get yourself that glide bomb, which could be so impactful later down the line, because this is not a guarantee that St. Clair are able to win this. McMaster getting a little bit of confidence here inside of this round is definitely going to jazz and spark up their step as they continue here in the search and destroy. But, I mean, just looking at the setup right now, again, it's just all going to come down to if anybody wants to push out Gorilla here. Oh, he might get some bad timing. Schneid is going to come up over the back. He's not going to get the timing there. Oh, and that's unfortunate, but that's big for McMaster. That shuts down the streak opportunity, and now you get yourself your first round on the board.
As big as that is for McMaster, I want to play devil's advocate in a sense that it's the same thing as map number 1, at least from what I've been able to see here through the first 4 rounds of this S&D. They're playing without map control. I mean, even when they wrap back to A and were able to get the bomb down there, they just aren't getting aggressive through the mid-map. And by the time we even saw them try to make a flank play after they had tried to, or in the 2v2 situation, Diz tried to go through the side door of train, but by the time the plays are coming in too slow that they aren't able to capitalize on it. They aren't doing anything to switch up the pacing or tempo and catch St. Clair off guard. St. Clair's been able to read everything they're doing because it is so passive, and Priestley getting out with godly timing, playing his life here, and now going to be all 4 players wrapping back to A.
I was going to say right there, Priestley being able to escape with his life right there was probably the single biggest play in this round thus far. Maybe in the S&D at this point, simply because it's going to allow them now to be in a 4 versus 2 situation where they cut everybody down over towards the A site and now can get on to A for a free plan. If you're Netrix right here, you're only on a 1 spree. Your best bet here is just to jump off the map over by the docks and not even try to go for a 1v4, but I mean, what do I know? I'm just a caster.
Yeah, I'm with you there, but nonetheless, Netrix will try, and again, no map presence. That's been the tale of the first 2 maps that we've seen thus far. We've been on Berlin, and St. Clair's been doing their thing. Yeah, you get around on the board, but it's not because you changed anything you were doing. You made a good rotation and found some kills by bullying out the site. It wasn't because you had excellent map positioning and were able to make reads on the defense, rotating back to A. It was just you won your gunfights, and that's great, but that doesn't translate to multiple round wins. It gets you a lucky round here or there, but until you can start to increase your presence around the map and cut off lanes and switch up the pacing even to catch St. Clair off guard, it's just going to be easy reads for them, as it has been. Up 4-1 in the search and destroy, and poised and ready to go up 2-0 in the series. McMaster, it's got to be heroics, and it's got to be something different.
I believe Dis was actually able to spot Gorilla as he hopped over towards the B site, so you get some early information here on where one of the St. Clair Saints players is. 3 players around the bomb site right now. Gorilla hasn't spotted out just yet. He's going to be able to find the first blood. Actually spots out the second. They're going to be there under the stun. He's going to be able to get that player caught out. Diz around the corner will be able to trade it. So 3 versus 3. Bomb will go down over towards this B site at the moment. But for St. Clair, they're just trying to throw nades around and through fire right now, trying to catch somebody off the site if they do go ahead and push on out. They know that the last 2 players are probably going to be somewhere in and around the backside spawn, so they can just play here through P2, try to get on out the back, and maybe get the numbers in their advantage early on.
Gotta open up with a pick here to at least clear out some portion of where your next attack is going to come from. But like you said, eyes on players in the back, figuring someone's probably in the bomb site. It's very hard to get out once you get the plant, unless you have good coverage. But Diz able to find a big kill on the site. Priestley is able to trade it out immediately. And once again, in this round, able to play his life. Does finally get caught by net, but it's Gucci Gang having to find a couple of big kills. And just even if he finds it, not enough time to get back over to the site. A valiant attempt and is able to find the kill. But hey, if you're McMaster, you get the bomb down early. That puts the clock and the pressure on St. Clair. They're a little slow to find the kills that they need. And Gucci Gang's like, run it back. We're going to go and try to get ourselves a map point here as McMaster find a second round here in map number 2.
Second round comes in. I thought maybe getting pushed so far up into the B site there, you're going to be able to find potentially 2 quick kills. Fortunately enough, though, for McMaster, you're able to trade that out immediately, get the bomb down, have the post plant set up all the way in the back line. That's what makes that B bomb site so favorable for the teams that are trying to get there on offense. Once you break into it, it's very hard for a retake. But now St. Clair on the offensive side is starting to make their way over towards B. They were basically gifted this site for free. They just don't know that, unfortunately. And now we're going to start making their way and wrapping back over towards this A site. Oh, this could work out perfectly for St. Clair's if the side of McMaster get a little too aggressive and start rotating back over towards B because they didn't see anything in A.
Wouldn't you know that? They got a little bit aggressive and have made a rotation back over to B, so St. Clair have the sight and the timing if they want it. George, the last player they have to kill before they're able to get on, but player 7 and Schneids, if he can wrap all the way through and find a kill, I mean, that could afford a pinch on this A site. You had said B is so much more favorable to plant because you can get a much cleaner post-plant setup in. With A, you're locked into the site. You're really putting all your eggs in one basket, and well, you don't have someone watching the flank. You do for a moment, and you've really got to pick that kill. Priestley able to find it, but that could have spelled spoiler for St. Clair, and still, time left to win this round. McMaster going to try to make it happen.
Still difficult, though. 2 versus 3. Netrix trying to find one with the AR in towards pop P5. You got to make a play here if you are the side of McMaster. Pighead gets some beautiful timing there to the player who was inside of office. Surprised nobody was watching the flank around the back there. Okay, 1 versus 2 now. It's Gorilla, the last one alive here. All you need to do
is run.
Go ahead and find Netrix, maybe? The gunfight? Don't get the gunfight win, but unfortunately there wasn't enough time for him to go ahead and get the defuse there. So St. Clair now at a 5-2 advantage here instead of the search and destroy. We get ourselves to a spot where St. Clair are now at match point here inside of the S&D. 2-0 on the loom here for this best of 5 series. St. Clair is able to just take one more round here on Berlin.
And I know our last series was a 3-0, but it at least played tight initially, but it's still, it's crazy that the dominance team still are able to show, and that just goes back to what we had mentioned at the top of the broadcast for the series was St. Clair. It just they don't really have a ceiling in sight. This is a squad that could really explode and show again their highest peak of upward trajectory at the time that you want, which is at this late in the postseason. You want to continue improving. You want to continue showing dominance and gelling as a squad. St. Clair is showing that very much, not only in this map 1 and 2. In the series as a whole, but just throughout this entire postseason. And for that, you got to be excited for them and where they're sitting at this point. But McMaster, I mean, you're going to have to find a way to regain here in a huge way.
St. Clair lets them get onto the B site yet again. First blood went to McMaster. No trades were there. So it's a 3 versus 4 on a retake here for the Saints. Sauce all the way in the back line, trying to make his way back around and through. At least to find one. With only 30 seconds left to make a play here, it's going to be very difficult to win the majority of the gunfights, especially since Net's all the way in towards the top of the backside of Spawn. He's at 9-5 here on 4 in a row. If McMaster are able to turn the Jets on bit by bit here, he's actually going to be cautious and looming for streaks. All the way in the back, Schneids gets killed. Gorilla will get traded. Now it's a 1 versus 3. Brandon taking down Diz all the way in the back. Maybe you try to kill Nets here, but it's a good round by McMaster. 3-5 now. The deficit still trying to find their way here in the S&D. Very aggressive as Net, and he's not going to get paid off for it. The streak that could have been now cut off the table.
And they're taking advantage of when they have the site available to plant, and that's afforded them a couple of rounds here in the Search and Destroy. Now 5-3 is a much less daunting scoreline than it could have been, but still at match point is going to be St. Clair, and going to have to take an offense to close this one out, at least in a 6-3 fashion. We'll see how they opt to play it, but on defense, they've been very passive and giving up the sights and then getting blooded, and unfortunately, that makes for a much harder retake. So having a 3-man hit and Brandon looking over mid, over towards this B side, they're going to try to get over here quickly, and quickly clearing out the side is McMaster, now making that rotation. Back over to B, it's going to be a 4v4 war.
Be a 4v4 war, but the bomb should get planted, or at least the pick should come through here for the side of the McMaster Marauders as they make their way back on over. Doss, who's on the bomb right now, will get cut down by Diz, so that's information for McMaster of where that bomb is going to be. Gorilla wins a one-on-one in the middle of the map to make it a 2 versus 2. So with 55 seconds left, McMaster can just hold passive here on defense. Wait for St. Clair to force their hand and get the bomb.
That's exactly what you do. You force them to make a play. Don't get overzealous. Hold your pre-aims. You know the bomb's down in the sight, but Gorilla knows someone is here and is going to try to get the timing, just seeing the barrel and seeing if Schneids had moved. At least relaying that information to Brandon. There goes the stun, and there goes the challenge. Now a 1v2, and Diz able to draw things up, but with 28 seconds left, once again, backs up and forces St. Clair to make the play. You know he has to make a play on the bomb or find this kill, and, well, he's not going to try to give him the kill for free.
He didn't get timing over to the left side. I think his teammate actually called him out that he saw him because he was hiding behind the lamppost. And now as Brandon's able to hop onto the site, it's a 1 versus 1 retake. Gonna have to come in here. Play number 5 around the right side corner. Oh, Brandon, please don't do it to me. Oh, Brandon, don't do it to him. Brandon, don't do it to him. Okay. Diz wins the one-on-one, able to get the defuse here. 2 rounds in a row now for McMaster. 5-4, still going to be the scoreline here. But as St. Clair has now lost a few rounds in a row, it gives McMaster's at least a bit of breathing room. And maybe they can at least win 2 more rounds here to tie the series up at 1 apiece.
Definitely have given themselves lives here, and great defensive retake from Diz to play that. And Brandon almost had the gunfight there with the pistol to close this map out, but they once again find themselves in a position to close this out and go up 2-0 in the series now on defense. We'll look to see if they played a bit more aggressive and not give up a site for free to McMaster, because the last 2 chances they've taken advantage and could draw this up and send us to our first round 11 of the night. It's going to be McMaster off the break flying towards this B side, and it's a 2-2 split out of St. Clair. They're working up docks quickly. Look at that call. Look at that call. I mean, they got the information, and wow. I mean, that's just heads up from the Marauders.
It is, but you don't realize that you have 2 players from the St. Clair Saints still sitting over towards this A site. Both inside, sure. Be difficult gunfights to win. Brandon unfortunately takes out a teammate, but is able to clean up Schneid. So it's a 3 versus 3. Now everybody on St. Clair knows that the side of McMaster is pushed up into the A side. They're going to try and get this down. Nice little nade in the site will weaken one up, get some information. This big head's going to pop off the window of office down onto the player middle map. They're going to be able to get this bomb down, and very, very quickly, this map has changed around to what we would have at least thought was going to happen. McMaster looking very poised to send this to a round 11.
It's 2-2 and a pinch play coming in. I'm not sure if the Marauders have that information, but they're both going to be backtracking down Train, and Diz is going to find the kill. So it's a 1v2 now. They're going to start to look back towards the site, previously having to clear everything out, and George now has the information on where he's going to be. He's going to have to find these 2 kills and find them quickly now with, about 15 seconds left to work with and be able to get to that bomb. But the Marauders, I mean, they've rallied back and sent us to round 11.
Okay, well, for the first about, I don't know, maybe 6 rounds of the Search and Destroy here, it was really uninspired, and, it just didn't seem like McMaster was all that into it. They're like, hey, we don't care if we win these S&D rounds, we're okay going down 0-2 or something like that. But no, it's been a sense of urgency in the few rounds previous that has actually put McMaster back in a situation where they can find themselves up inside of the game. So, at 14-7 for Gorilla. I know we haven't really touched on it all that much. Oh, what a free cam right there, by the way. 14-7 here. What time is it? About
time, baby.
That's cash, folks. Quick thinking on her feet.
Man.
4-4. 20 seconds ticked off the clock. Diz trying to hop on out. Gorilla over towards the B site. First one going to go. Nobody trades. Gets out with the life. St. Clair do a beautiful job of being able to read. Hey, they've been going to the B site a lot. Well, we just stop it.
And they got a bit more aggressive. Of course, Gorilla was red on the last go around, getting to the B site, and they were able to make that back to A. But 2 quick kills go the way of St. Clair whenever this round opens up. And Netric sure could get great timing here, I thought, but the grenade's going to come in and finish him off. And maybe that just spells the series. I mean, a breakdown in this round 11 now, 1v4 for Big Head, and again, I just don't see it happening. But of course, anything can happen, I suppose. But yeah, for St. Clair, they clutch up when they need, and find themselves up 2-0 in the series.
Well, there we go. After a great comeback there from McMaster to force the round 11, St. Clair clutch up at the very end of things and are able to take that round 11 with a 2-0 lead now here inside of this best-of-5 series. We'll go to a control with a chance for St. Clair to close out this series in just 3 games. But, I mean, you know, give credit where credit is due for McMaster. They were able to start their comeback late in that game. Unfortunately, it was just a little too late in that scenario. So, for the side of St. Clair's, welcome to an opportunity to be able to send yourselves to LAN. For McMaster, welcome to the clutch opportunity that you've been praying for the entire tournament. Here's your Cinderella story to go ahead and reverse sweep to send yourselves to LAN and send St. Clair home.
It would be quite the Cinderella story that'd have to be written in this series tonight, but the way St. Clair's playing, I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe they were toying with their food in the search and destroy, because the way they took that round 11 was just like, okay, that was the first, like you had said, 4 rounds of the S&D that we had seen initially. So for St. Clair, you go back to a respawn, which you handled dominantly. You're going to switch gears and go to Tuscan. But hey, I mean, the way their ARs have been playing, it's an AR's playground on Tuscan control at the very least, so they definitely have the potential to close the series out here. Again, I still expect them to, as the trend has been for them. But yeah, for McMaster, it would have to be a Cinderella story for them to kind of rewrite the first 2 maps and pull it off in a reverse sweep fashion. But I mean, you take a look at these stats, and it's fairly even up and down. I mean, you have Gorilla at 15-7, Ned at 11-9. I mean, across the board, nothing too crazy, and that's why we were sent to around 11. But really, whenever St. Clair were playing well, it was dominant in those rounds that they were winning.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of the tail of map 1, right? You know, McMaster, you know, they weren't really all that far behind St. Clair when it came to the kills. It was just that hill time that was antiquated over the course of the entirety of the hard point that gave St. Clair such a staunch advantage here on Berlin. So, you know, we look to another map here for map number 3. Sure, we're going to see a change of scenery just a bit with a Tuscan hard, or rather Tuscan control coming up. But I don't think maybe a change of scenery or a map change is going to be all that much to fix the problems that McMaster had in terms of respawn, and especially after that loss there in the search and destroy. I don't want to say the series feels lost, but it definitely feels a lot more apparent that St. Clair are here and ready to go ahead and find themselves on LAN. Albeit, though, I mean, I'll be interested to see what McMaster will throw out at them on Tuscan. But right now, again, it just seems like uninspired gameplay from McMaster, and that's kind of the burden for them that it's kind of been on that back foot for me this whole series.
And I know it's easy to look at the team that's down, and I feel like, you know, we focus on that a lot. Like, what change do they need to make to bring the series back? What do they need to do to change the tides of a map? And it's easy to look at that and point out what they need to do, but really, like you had said, let's shift our eyes and focus on St. Clair and what they are doing. And for McMaster, we can spell out X, Y, and Z that they should be doing to, you know, kind of get momentum, get anything back in their favor, get a map win on the board. But maybe at the end of the day, they just, you know, can't stop St. Clair. I know that's such an obvious statement that, and we've been seeing, you know, dominance from them, especially in the respawn. But maybe no matter what McMaster, like you'd said, are trying to throw at the wall, it just could not stick because, well, the Saints were just a bit too strong for them here in this series. So you hope McMaster can pull it back and keep it a close series. But for St. Clair, I mean, everything's clicking for you and going right. Has it been a perfect series? No, but it's been one where, like you had said, they very much have arrived, and yeah, they look ready to go to LAN.
Well, I mean, I was going to say it's been a fun series thus far. If you're a St. Clair fan, for McMaster, there's been obvious struggles that you hope get ironed out here in the next few maps and/or the next map, because you're going to be in a situation where either you need to win to go to LAN, or at least keep the series alive, or you're going to go home after a Tuscan control. Either way, we're going to send things to a short break. When we come back, the McMaster Marauders attempt to reverse sweep, while St. Clair, they try to get things out in 3 quick games. McCormick, Cash, we'll be back in just a minute. I told you it'd be a short break, but map number 3, the Tuscan control, St. Clair Saints in firm control of this series overall with a 2-0 lead on the side of the McMaster Marauders. Again, this is the one opportunity that McMaster has in order to keep their season alive. It's not just a series anymore at this point. It's their season. They lose this, they're done. Their CCL season, over. Their playoff run, over. For St. Clair, one map win solidifies them an extra bit on their back to say, okay, let's get better, let's get ready, let's get poised for when we go to the CCL LAN to face off against the other 7 teams that will be there. McMaster, you need one control to keep yourselves alive. St. Clair, can you close things out in 3 maps? Offensive try here for McMaster early on. There'll be 2 players inside of top radio now for St. Clair. Everybody from McMaster is over. All running away from a nade. It is going to be Schneids. The first one to get tallied up. Priestley there for a double. Now you're on the point for a contestation here. McMaster, it was a great, at least attempt at a push there. Unfortunately, gets shut down.
But it was a different look, and for McMaster, I'll take that. Given the S&D and how they were kind of, like you said, playing uninspired has kind of been the word that we're rolling with here for the squad, at least in this series tonight. But it's a different look, and well, they're starting to win over this B side and very quickly stack up this progression. It's going to be all 4 players sitting on this site. The second tick already in, zooming towards that third tick, and really no one there to stop it. McMaster Marauders, I mean, they do it.
Yeah.
B-side secured. That's it. The hard work's cut out. So, I mean, if you know, we need to see something different than uninspired, well, this has looked touch inspired here, at least on this opening offensive break.
See, I like that. Usually a team, if they go to B early on and, you know, one player is left there, they'll just automatically rotate back over towards A and not really give B a second thought. But instead, they re-hit back over towards B. They win a few gunfights and they're going their way, and then they're finally able to go ahead and lock it all in. So that's a nice, generous play there from McMaster. They get themselves at B tick with 1:40 left, and this makes it is a lot easier to go ahead and grab, but it can still be just as daunting if the team on defense sets up in the right way. Sauce going to be pushed into the middle of the map. You look to the top of fire for the player that's trying to make a route on out. Really, you just got to make sure nobody can get to the backline flank and then allow the other team to set up a pinch.
If St. Clair can take advantage, like you said, of the map positioning they have, they can start to play TDM and at least start to make their lives be a factor, more so than map positioning, but player 5 in Priestley is able to trade out his teammate who gets killed top church, and that allows him to get back in position. Player 6 in Brandon, playing in the spawn and playing so far up that he's shooting players in the back. Mid-map control, completely the way of St. Clair, and as I say that, a couple players fall and open up church, but Gorilla there to greet you through an open door, and it's still St. Clair who, even if they fall, they're still spawning P4, and so maybe McMaster, you know, you're trying to get that P4 control and spawn them deep P2, but you're sitting mid-map, and with 45 seconds left, I mean, it can just be challenging to get back over to this A site. St. Clair, the way they're holding on, I mean, they're getting the job done.
Brandon with 2. Into the middle of the map, a 3-1 trade here for the side of the St. Clair Saints forces McMaster back to their spawn side. Netrix in the top of fire will cut down one of Gorilla in the top of the church. Over towards the site, though. No ticks of progress on A just yet. 5 lives separate the two teams. Schneid's trying to make a little bit of a play out towards that right side. Won't be able to get cut down just yet, but as Priestley sits here on the head glitch, he'll look for Big Head George, who's the first one to challenge around the corner. You still have to look for play number 3 and Netrix in the middle of the map, though, because this could play spoiler for the entire round, especially since everybody's trying to get back over towards the point. In from behind, Netrix is able to find the first. Now make it the second. Over towards the point, you're starting to stack. It's going to be Sauce, who's here left to go ahead and hold the brigade. 1 kill comes in. 4 lives remaining here for the side of McMaster Marauders. No respawns in. Schneid's through the middle of the map, and you will get cut down by Priestley. And as Diz is on the point, just trying to hold the contest on for dear life, it's a 1 versus 8 now here for George with 3.5 seconds left on the clock. First one around the corner, in from you is going to be able to win the gunfight. St. Clair, the first round here in the control, is going to put them up 2 rounds away from getting themselves a one-way ticket to LAN.
And they did what they needed to do. They recognized, well, we lost the B side early. We need to get the kills going in our way, because if we go 4 down, you can afford the stack to come in for the offensive side. So they got the kill life, or they got the kills very much in their favor. And again, you said it was a 1v8 there at the end. Not much you can do. Even if he gets a full wipe, well, there's not enough people left to stack that and get it up without everyone getting back there. So great job and heads up awareness by St. Clair. Secure that defensive round where it looked dire after the opening break, and already going towards this A site. They're going to go 2 down in the mid-map, but that is going to be quickly traded out, and going to be Gucci Gang on the A side early, getting this progression rolling.
Really? With the pistol, tries to map on a 1, won't be able to find it. First tick of progress over towards A for St. Clair. 1 life advantage in their way, but it's still going to be a breakback attempt here from McMaster. They have not wanted to give up the site just yet. Priestley a double. Sauce going to be around the corner, but Diz with a beautiful gunfight win is going to allow them to not get that second tick of progress on that A site. So as they go ahead and get that back down, the site will be depleted. At the same time, though, St. Clair will be working their way over towards that B site, trying to get that first bit of progress. Brandon, the first gunfight will be there, but the trade instantaneously after the fact. The other 3 players from the side of St. Clair just trying to go ahead and fully control that A zone. They want to make sure that enough time is left on the clock to push back over towards B, while also making sure that they only need to focus their attention towards that B.
And this should be all but chalked for McMaster here as the final tick of progress comes in on the A site. Now lives even at 22 minutes on the clock, and McMaster with mid-map control. Net gets cut down there at top church, but quickly on the chase is going to be Diz for the trade, and is able to find that. So it's back to square one for St. Clair Saints, working over towards B to try and secure it. And really all you need is 1 tick of progress to go up if you look towards around 5. So they need 1 clean 4 down, but you know they're looking for more than that. All 4 players going to stack up in P5. This is an MW 2019. But coming through plat quickly and trying to find kills behind a flurry of tacticals is going to be St. Clair's, and here's the break.
is around the corner. Going to be able to pick up the first 2 kills. Unfortunately, though, Schneid's is going to cut him down from behind. So as the team kill comes in, you're still up by 1 life now. So allowing the reinforcements to spawn relatively close from St. Clair's so that they can continuously keep pushing in here through B5. You got to get somebody out and towards the radio and start influencing the back line to spawn. That's exactly what they've started to do here now, though. Everybody from the side of McMaster set up on head glitches. Everybody playing around one another. They've been doing such a good job of being able to hold everything down. They'll stop everybody on the side of St. Clair's yet again. And on the defensive side, it's been beautiful here for McMaster thus far, as they've done a phenomenal job of holding their portion of the map.
They have done a great job, and now that allows Diz to get aggressive through the mid-map and know that, hey, everyone's spawning roof and flying through P5 once again. For St. Clair, they still have time to, but I would like to have seen them take a different route, send someone at least through P4 and Church to make something happen, but it's going to be Diz through the back lines and affording 2 players to get cut down for St. Clair. Still, Sauce trying to make something happen in the back and influence spawns, as you had alluded to on their first hit. They have some clearance and site control. If Gucci stay alive like he has, well, then that just might spell danger over here on this B site. Got to get rid of him if you want to get back over.
Okay, time has now stopped. 30 seconds left. Beautiful call there from Cash as he was able to get through the backside. 4 kills now, trying to be completed for either of these 2 teams. McMaster now making their way around the right side. Priestley, first gunfight. Brandon's there as well. Priestley tries to snap to the second yet again, but it did come off the spawn. He's the last one here alive. Sauce now around the corner. You're going to be able to stall yet again. 7 to 8. You're down in lives right now if you are the defensive side, but you also have the advantage with the man count over towards this point too. 26 seconds. Brendan, Gorilla, both killing on the point at the moment. Diz around the back line, trying to cut things down. It's a 1 versus 2. You can't find the second kill. You've got the point stacked. Nobody is there. St. Clair, what looked like it should have been a round for the McMaster Marauders on defense. You're going to win an offensive round now at 2-0 inside of the control. 1 round away from LAN.
It takes 2. You know, it takes the progress for them to. All right, it took 1 for them to get it done, but it took 2 players there. And specifically in Gucci kicking that off to keep site control over at B and make things happen. I mean, look at how balanced that scoreboard is for the side of St. Clair. 17-12, 17-10, 11-12, 12-12. And for the side of McMaster, you have 2 single-digit performances that just unfortunately are kind of spelling the difference out here. You were able to get B early on your offensive hit, but now, I mean, we said it in the postseason for St. Clair, we've said it in this series, but they have arrived and they are ready to close this one out. You find yourself on defense because you win the offense and get the hard work done early. Now you've just got to close it out in 1 more round, but 2 ticks of progress already in an A for McMaster. Schneid's finding a couple kills as well, so St. Clair probably going to chalk this up and look to set up the reinforcements on defense, as now it's McMaster Marauders making their transition through mid-map.
Difficult to get a gauge on McMaster when it comes to respawn, because at least in this series, it has been just, you know, I don't want to say, I guess, here, let me rephrase this. The reason that I'm not really sure how to gauge McMaster is because of the inconsistencies I've seen throughout the series in terms of playing. There's been games where everybody has a great game. There's been games where everybody has a poor game. There's been games where they go back and forth between one another, and like maybe 2 people are having like a good game, or 1 person's having a good game, and then everybody else is flopping behind. And it's just such a weird way to play that, like, on a day-to-day basis, there's just no consistency, especially against these top teams, where now you're just left with a question mark over your head and saying, are you going to be able to take this map? Nobody knows.
Yeah, consistency is so hard if you're not playing with it to, like you said, gauge. I couldn't have shaped that up much better than you, but whenever you come into a series against a good team, and again, even though you're the higher seeded team, you still have question marks. That's just not a position you really want to be in, of course. And in these respawns, it hasn't looked close at all. Like you had said, that comes from lopsided slaying. I mean, Diz doing his job at 22 and 16, but there is no supporting role to really give any kind of life. It's going to be a 2-2 hit through plat and through P4, but as one player falls, they've got to make this play quickly here with 60 seconds left if they want to not only stay alive in this series, stay alive in their season, but also try to push this to around number 5.
Previously, red net around the backside spawn, and he did. Big head fell in towards the top. Schneid's the only one pushed up with the AR at the moment. 4 lives separate these 2 teams. 48 seconds here left in the round for the McMaster Marauders on the offensive attempt to make something happen. We saw a late round surge there from the St. Clair Saints. The last round on offense. Can they do the same here? Brandon with a double, forcing everybody back to the respawn block. Net, Schneid's, last 2 here. They know exactly where these players are and are forcing them to rotate in through the middle of the map. They're trying to spread their will across the map and then collapse together back over toward the point. Top of the bar, though. It's going to be Gucci Gang Sauce who finds one with Brandon. Now Big Head looking to make the push back over towards the right side, trying to win the one-on-one against Priestley and Will. 5 lives separate these two teams still. Back to the respawn block yet again. 2 players now making their way in through P5. You just got to get over towards the point. You got to contest. You got to stop the time. You got to win the gunfights. There's so many things that you have to do to keep your season alive. The second player going to fall. Big Head, the last one there to the point, has to contest for the time. Nobody going to be able to get back. St. Clair Saints in a 3-0 in the control in the best of 5 series. They're going to send themselves to land, and they're going to send McMaster walking back to Broadway.
St. Clair punched their one-way ticket, like you had said, to land the last spot in the East. They're able to snag, and in very convincing fashion. McMaster not able to find footing in the series. We thought in the control the S&D having sent it to around 11 that maybe that would spark some life in them. But once we got back to the respawns, like you had said, just a couple too many question marks that we've seen from them, not only tonight, but throughout the series, throughout the season, that just left us with, like you said, uninspired gameplay at times where it's just, do you want to be out here? Do you want to win this? Sure. And I know that's such a silly question, but St. Clair, I mean, they come out and they take care of business. It wasn't clean, it wasn't perfect up there up until the control, but they're a squad that's going to be sharp and ready to go for LAN, and congratulations to them for punching that last ticket in the East.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what they did this season. A lot of people counted them out. I didn't have them as one of my top 4 teams, but I'll give credit to Jesse and Colin, that Seymour as well as Cruz, and they did. They were they were 2 people that had St. Clair as one of those rosters that they were very confident in to be able to make it to LAN, and again, for good reason. I now see why. Obviously, beating a team like McMaster in the fashion that they did is going to be a big standout. But I mean, overall, being in tier 2, having to fight their way through not only the upper but the lower bracket to make it to LAN, and having to go through the LCQ even to get to where they were, to get into the playoffs itself and into playoff groups, the teams that they had to go through. There's just so many things that they had to go through, so many moments in the season where it looked like it could have spelled trouble for them or been an obstacle that they had to hurdle over, and they went over each and every one of those things, and now find themselves on LAN against the other 7 best CCL teams. And so at least we have our East set up right now for the CCL playoffs. It's going to be the side of St. Clair Saints going with the Northwood roster, as well as Bay State, and joining the team that won earlier on stream, the Davenport Panthers, as the 4 teams out of the East. So we'll take a look back at our map set real quick. 250 to 102 for the hard point, 6-5 on the S&D, and a 3-0 in the control there. There was no question who the better respawn team was, and even the S&D wasn't all that close until a late round comeback and surge from the McMaster Marauders. Really, there's nothing else to say except GG's to the St. Clair Saints here, Cash, because they are a team that is looking to make waves inside of the playoffs. And as we see the graphic here overall, we say goodbye to the rest of the teams that were inside of the East, and we welcome, again, Bay State, Northwood, Davenport, and St. Clair to the 4 teams out of the East that will be playing for the CCL Championship on LAN.
And what a 4 that we have, like you had said, Bay State and Northwood, not super shocking seeing them up here, but Davenport and St. Clair punched their ticket as well. And I'm just so excited to see, how the rest of this tournament ends up panning out, because what we have seen from these squads that have qualified, I mean, it is going to be a battle until the end. You see some dominant score lines, here and there, like we had just seen within this series alone. But man, LAN's different, environment's different, play style, everything. You can't wait. I can't express enough how excited I am to see these teams perform on LAN. And you couldn't be happier for them as well. I mean, this is just such an awesome opportunity that they get to go to Columbus and to have a tournament like this. So it's so exciting for the players, and I hope they enjoy every second of it, because, stuff like this doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't. But I mean, just looking back over the broadcast for today, it's been crazy. Davenport and St. Clair to be able to take down their adversaries, for everybody to qualify out of the East. Kind of I guess the energy in the air before this entire East playoff bracket started was the fact that apart from Northwood and Bay State, we had no clue who was going to be able to make it to LAN with those 2 teams and to face off against the teams from the West. So that in itself was a wild thing. But Cash, before we go ahead and close out the broadcast, any last things that you want to go ahead and bring up here?
I mean, I know this could be our last cast of the CCL season, and so if it is, it's been a great time. I mean, we've got to formulate such a wonderful duo, between the two of us throughout the season. I appreciate everyone that took me on board for this initial season of the CDL for myself. And, I can only hope to be back next year, but just the relationships I've, been able to foster and grow with everyone, not only in the scene, but behind the scenes here at CCL has been nothing short of amazing. For my first casting opportunity like this, it's been a great time. And I've been thankful to be in your backpack for the entirety of the season here and learn and grow alongside you, Corn.
Oh, look, the term backpack is meant for somebody who's getting carried, and there was absolutely nothing where there was a point where I was carrying you at any point. You have been a pleasure to be able to work with over the course of the season, and I can't wait to expand that beyond from what we have already built as a foundation here in this CCL season. So, yeah, Cash said it best. This is going to be our last cast of the CCL season. It was a pleasure being able to bring you the coverage throughout the entire year of the CCL. And again, until next week when the West playoffs will continue, that's going to be it for myself and Cash, not only for this season, but hopefully we'll get to see you back next season. It's been my second time or rather a second season full time here for the CCL. So hopefully you've enjoyed the casting along the way, as I have the company, the players, and everybody inside of the CCL staff. We'll send things off for the night. And again, you'll tune back in next weekend for the West playoffs. It'll start Saturday at 9 o'clock Eastern, and that'll go and extend into Sunday, where we'll find the 4 teams that will break out of the Western region to make it to land here for the CCL. That's it for the night. Stay safe. Have a phenomenal night. We'll see you next week as the CCL playoffs continue.